Verse 3, Jonathan made a covenant with David because, here it is again, he loved him as himself. And here's what Jonathan does. Did you have a friend like that? Who puts your interests over their own? Verse 4, Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David along with his tunic and even his sword, his bow, and his belt. And guys, this isn't like hand-me-downs. This is lift you up. What Jonathan is doing by shedding his royal robes toward David is saying, David, I think you should be king, not me. And I'll play number 2 for you, but you should be king. And everyone in the courtyard is going, wow. Except for Saul. He blew a cork. It's like, son, you can't give your kingdom to David. I'm giving my kingdom to you. You can't give your kingdom to David. And he's going, but Daddy, he would be a better king. I would be a better number 2. And Saul's not having any of it. Listen to what Saul says to his own son. As long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. And Jonathan's going, I know. He should be king. He would be a better king than me. I should be number 2. But Saul doesn't think so. And he says, now send someone to bring him to me, for he must die. Imagine your dad wanting to kill your best friend. And one of the things I love about Jonathan is he believes the best, not only about David, but about his dad. And I guess he should, except it was unrealistic. David's going, Jonathan, you know your dad wants to kill me, right? No, my dad's not gonna kill you, bro. You're my best friend. He's not gonna take your life. And so David is there in the court. Saul's sitting on his throne, got his spear next to him. David's playing his harp. And I don't know what came over Saul, a demon or something, but he just goes crazy, picks up the spear and chucks it at David. Now David's quick, so he backs out of the way, but this thing sticks in the wall. And so when David's going, Jonathan, your dad wants to kill me. Jonathan says, no, my dad doesn't want to kill you. He's going, there's a spear in the wall. And it didn't happen once, it happened twice. And David is trying to say to Jonathan, I am in danger. And Jonathan won't believe it. But when it gets to the tipping point, Jonathan begins to suspect David is right. So they hatched a plot to determine definitively if David's life was in danger. Hey, here's the plot. It revolves around a new moon feast. So Saul is having his normal kingly banquet. New moon is kind of a special meal, and he invites the court to come. Night 1, David is MIA, just doesn't show up. Saul sees the empty chair. Okay, he's sick or whatever. Night 2, David doesn't show up. And Saul turns to Jonathan and says, where's your friend? And Jonathan lied to his dad. It was part of the plot. He said, well, Dad, David wanted to go make a sacrifice with his family in Bethlehem, so I told him he could go. Saul went off. How dare you, you son of a wicked woman. I don't know why he's insulting Jonathan's mother, but there it was. And Saul got so angry, he picks up a spear and throws it, you won't believe this, throws it at Jonathan. Jonathan goes, man, David was right. He was furious. Now, part of the plot was the next morning, Jonathan goes out and shoots an arrow over to some rocks where David was hiding. He shoots the arrow towards the rocks. And they had prearranged, if I shout to the servant boy who goes to get the arrow, come back. The arrow's on this side of it, come back. Then you'll know it's safe for you to come out of hiding and you can go back to the palace. But if I say, go, run, hurry, you'll know that I know my dad is gonna kill you. It's exactly what happened. The little servant boy comes back with the arrow. Jonathan sends him into the palace. And as far as I know, this is the last conversation that Jonathan had with his best friend. He goes out in the field, it's just the two of them. And Jonathan says, go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord. Jonathan would later fight with his father, and both of them die in battle. They died together. David would then go on to ascend to the throne. And he was the best king Israel ever had. To this day, he's the best king. But he made some tragic mistakes in his life. Listen, every mistake that David made was after he had lost contact with his best friend. I don't know if that's true for you. I know it's true for me. I'm not gonna bore you with the details, but as I look at my career, at my adult life, the personal and professional mistakes I have made was when I felt isolated, alone, or abandoned. You? Social capital is critical for us not only leading healthy lives for ourselves, but for our families, for our businesses. This is just true. Our greatest mistakes are made in isolation. So we've got to answer a second question. If that is true, that our greatest mistakes are made in isolation, I think all of us need to ask this question: where do you find a friend like Jonathan? So I want to ask again, where do you find a friend like Jonathan? You want to know my answer? You don't. If you want to put the whole sermon in a sentence, here it is. You don't find a friend like Jonathan. You become a friend that Jonathan would like. And he will come to you. She will come to you. You don't find a friend like Jonathan. You become a friend that Jonathan would like. And that will attract the kind of people that will make your life better. And you might be thinking, well, that's good if you live in a palace because, Jonathan and David met in a palace. No, listen, your greatest friendships don't come from a palace. They come from a cave. The palace is where you have success and ease. But you're smart people, you know this. Your greatest friendships are out of mutual suffering. When you care for one another, when life gets you down. And so I want to go to a passage that really explains where David got his best friends after Jonathan. It's from 1 Samuel 22, and verse 1 says, David left Gath and escaped to the cave of Adullam. I could take you there if you like. It's a real place with real people. When his brothers and his father's household heard about it, they went down to him there. That's what you expect, right? Family to come to you when you're alone and in need. But something else happened in verse 2. All those who were in distress, in debt, discontented, gathered around him, and he became the commander. About 400 men were with him. What a resume for your best friends. Who do I want as a friend? Let me see. I want people who are in distress. I want people who are in debt. And I want people who are discontented. Yeah. But when you become a friend that Jonathan would like, then the people who gather to you are raised up to your level. It's just the way friendships work, right? And out of this cave of Adullam came a number of men that were really famous in David's history. In fact, you could go in your Bible, fast forward to 2 Samuel 23. There's a list of them. There's over 30 men listed. And they were called, I love this, David's mighty men. Like, don't you want to be one of David's mighty men? And he's got a whole bunch of them because he didn't find a friend like Jonathan. He became a friend that Jonathan would like, and all of these guys come out of the woodwork. I could spend an hour just telling you the exploits of the mighty men of David. I don't have the time, so let me just tell you one, because this dude, he just cracks me up. His name is Benaiah, and he's crazy. I mean, Benaiah is, he's a crazy dude. Listen to what he does. Benaiah went down into a pit on a snowy day and killed a lion. You think about that. Lion's in a pit. Benaiah wants a lion skin coat. I mean, who doesn't? Why didn't he just take a spear and stab the thing? It's snowy, it's slippery. And you go jump down into a pit on a lion? They tend to have a nasty disposition when you do that. I actually know what Benaiah is thinking. I want a lionskin coat. Lion's down there. I could just spear it, but that wouldn't be fair. I mean, the lion's at a disadvantage. He's a noble creature. He deserves a fair fight. So here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Don't you love this guy? In the very next verse, it's not a lion, it's an Egyptian. A huge, like an NBA Egyptian, a huge Egyptian who's got a spear. And here's what Benaiah does. Although the Egyptian had a spear in his hand, Benaiah went against him with a club. And here's what we know about ancient Israelite men. You can look at the skeletal records in the cemeteries. They averaged less than 5'6". He's a little guy. Egyptian's a big guy. Egyptian's got a spear, Benaiah's got a club, and Benaiah's sitting there going, I like my odds. And he just beat the bejeeber out of this guy, starting at the shins and working his way up, gets to the spear, stabs him with it. That's Benaiah. Why do you think Benaiah was such good friends with David? I don't know, maybe because David went after another giant, like with a slingshot. These guys are two peas in a pod. You don't find a friend like Jonathan, you become a friend that Jonathan would like. And that's why we forge friendships in a cave. Our greatest friendships are forged in a cave. And around here, we prioritize caves. Even more than assemblies, we prioritize caves. We call them neighborhood groups, but that's what they are. You go in someone's living room and you sit in a circle together and you just do life together. I just want to share a few of the rules of cave dwelling. Rule number 1, circles are better than rows. When you come to a service at CCV, it's inspiring. But if you want to go from inspiration to transformation, it takes one step to go into a circle where you can look eyeball to eyeball with real human beings and have a conversation that could matter for eternity. Here's rule number 2. Sometimes you need the group, and sometimes the group needs you. There are stories after story after story about people who needed a neighborhood group. I'll share a couple in just a minute, but a lot of people say, well, I don't need a group. Well, now you don't. You're probably right. Right now you don't. But if you want to have a friend like Jonathan, you don't find a friend like Jonathan, you become a friend that Jonathan would like, and that requires being available, because I promise you, whatever group, like if you take that step, you take the step, there is someone in that group that needs you now, even if you don't need them. Here's rule number 3 for cave dwelling. Friction is how things get sharp. And some of you are wondering, will there be a weird person in the group? Yes, there will. I know some of you are thinking, I'm in the group. There's no weird people. What if someone disagrees with me? What if someone challenges me? What if someone offends me? Exactly. As iron sharpens iron, there is no other way to be better at life than be around people who will push you, who will rub you, who will take some of those edges off of you. Here's rule number 4. Every group is not for everyone, and no group is for all time. I know some of you tried a group and it wasn't a good fit. That's okay. There's another cave. Go find a different group of people in a different cave. Like, you're not a heretic if you do that. You're not a bad person if you do that. Not every group is for everyone. And if you started in a group and you go, man, it didn't click for me, so I'm out. Are you telling me there's no other cave and no other group that you can be a part of? Like, if you dated the way you did neighborhood groups? Seriously. Like your first date probably wasn't the one. And they're not for all time. Some groups disband. And maybe you were a part of a group and it disbanded. Go to another cave, find another group, because this is number 5. Groups have seasons. My wife and I have been here in Phoenix for 7 years. We've been a part of 3 groups. And I say, there are moments in each of these groups, each of the groups, there are moments where I just go, I got nothing out of that group. I was just going through the motions. Exactly. Because you never know on any given night with any given group what is going to give you the strength to sharpen for the next battle that you face.